You don't lack time. If you slow down for a moment and look at your day honestly, without blaming work, responsibilities, technology, or other people, you will notice something very simple. Time is still there. 24 hours, the same amount you had yesterday, the same amount everyone else receives. What has changed is not time itself. What has changed is how easily your attention is taken away. You wake up, and before your body fully arrives in the day, your mind has already left the room. It moves to your phone, to messages, to notifications, to headlines, to unfinished conversations from yesterday, to problems that do not actually need you yet. You do not consciously begin your day. You slide into it. Later, you hear yourself saying, "I don't have enough time." But here is the uncomfortable truth. You are not short on time. You are short on uninterrupted attention. Your day is not full. It is fragmented. Your attention is cut into small pieces, not through dramatic interruptions, but through quiet, constant ones. A notification, a quick glance, a brief escape that feels harmless. Each moment seems insignificant. Each one costs only a few seconds. But together, they slowly drain your mental energy. By the end of the day, you feel tired, distracted, and strangely unsatisfied, even if you were busy the entire time. Quiet discipline does not ask you to do more. It does not push you to work longer hours. It does not rely on motivation, pressure, or urgency. Instead, it asks a much harder question. How often are you fully present with the one thing in front of you? Not multitasking. Not half thinking about something else. Not waiting for the next interruption. Just present. Most people do not lack time. They lack protected space. Space where attention is not constantly pulled away. This video is not about managing your schedule better. It is about reclaiming your attention. Because when your attention returns to you, time stops feeling scarce, and discipline becomes quiet. The first distraction you need to remove is not your phone. It's the habit of reacting immediately. Most people believe distraction comes from devices. But devices are only tools. The real problem is the reflex you've trained over time. The reflex to respond. The reflex to check. The reflex to break focus the moment something pulls at your attention. A sound. A vibration. A message that feels urgent, even when it isn't. You don't stop what you're doing because it matters. You stop because your nervous system has learned that interruption equals importance. Quiet discipline begins when you break that reflex. Not by force, not by strict rules, but by delay. You don't need to ignore everything. You just need to stop responding immediately. A message can wait 10 minutes. An email can wait an hour. A notification can wait until you finish what you started. This small delay changes everything. When you don't react instantly, your brain stays in one place longer. Your thoughts go deeper instead of scattering. Focus is not built through intensity. It's built through continuity. Every time you stay with one task a little longer, you are training your mind to resist fragmentation. Most people lose focus not because they are weak, but because they never give their attention time to settle. Quiet discipline teaches you to protect the beginning of focus. Because once focus is established, it becomes easier to maintain. The first 5 minutes matter more than the next 50. If you interrupt yourself early, your mind never fully arrives. If you stay a little longer, clarity begins to form on its own. This change doesn't require motivation. It doesn't require discipline in the traditional sense. It requires one decision, repeated calmly. Do not react immediately. Pause. Stay. Finish the thought in front of you. When you remove the habit of instant reaction, distraction loses its power, and your attention starts coming back. Quietly, multitasking feels productive, but it quietly destroys focus. When you move between tasks, your brain doesn't transition smoothly. It stops, resets, and loses momentum every single time. The cost is subtle. You don't feel it immediately. A switch only takes a few seconds. But mentally, each switch pulls you out of depth and forces your attention to restart. This is why you can work all day and still feel like nothing meaningful was completed. Quiet discipline rejects multitasking, not because it looks chaotic, but because it keeps your thinking shallow. Focus is not a switch you flip on. It has a settling phase. In the first minutes of any task, your mind is restless. Thoughts wander. Distractions feel louder than usual. If you interrupt yourself during this phase, clarity never has time to appear. Multitasking traps you in the shallow layer of attention. You stay busy, but never fully engaged. Quiet discipline chooses single tasking instead. One direction, one mental space, one intention at a time. Not forever, just long enough for focus to stabilize. When you stay with one task a little longer, something changes. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts begin to organize. Connections form without effort. This is the moment when work stops feeling heavy and starts feeling deliberate. Most people never reach this state because they leave too early. They check a message. They open another tab. They interrupt themselves before focus has a chance to mature. Quiet discipline teaches patience with attention, not forcing focus, not demanding productivity, just staying long enough for the mind to settle. You don't need to eliminate all distractions. You only need to stop inviting them in during the fragile beginning of focus. Depth is delicate at first. Protect it. When you stop multitasking, you don't become slower. You become clearer, and clarity always produces better results with less effort. Most people think distraction comes from doing too much, but the deeper problem is consuming too much. Your mind today is rarely empty. It is constantly receiving input. News, videos, messages, opinions, background noise that never fully stops. Even when you are not working, your mind is still being fed. This constant input feels harmless. Sometimes it even feels relaxing. But there is a hidden cost. When your mind is always receiving, it never has time to process. Thoughts don't settle. Ideas don't connect. Understanding stays shallow. Quiet discipline recognizes this clearly. Focus does not grow in a mind that is constantly stimulated. It grows in space. When input never stops, your attention becomes reactive instead of intentional. You jump from idea to idea, not because they matter, but because they arrive. This is why silence feels uncomfortable. Not because silence is empty, but because it exposes how dependent we have become on constant stimulation. The moment there is no input, the mind feels restless, uneasy, almost bored. And instead of staying with that feeling, most people reach for something to consume. Quiet discipline asks you to resist that urge. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just long enough to let the mind slow down. Because something important happens when input stops. Your thoughts begin to organize themselves. Unfinished ideas resurface. Clarity starts forming without effort. This is where real focus comes from. Not from more information, not from more inspiration, but from less noise. Most people keep adding input, hoping it will create insight. Quiet discipline removes input to allow insight to emerge. This change is subtle, but it is powerful. When you reduce constant input, your attention becomes stronger. You stop reacting to everything. You start choosing what deserves your focus. Silence is not the absence of activity. It is the environment where thinking becomes clear. If you want deeper focus, you don't need more content. You need fewer interruptions and more space between them. When you reduce constant input, your mind stops racing. And focus finally has room to breathe. Silence makes many people uncomfortable. Not because it is empty, but because it removes distraction. When the noise stops, there is nothing left to hide behind. No scrolling, no background sound, no constant input to soften the moment. Just you and your thoughts. For a mind that is used to constant stimulation, this feels unsettling. Silence creates space, and space exposes what has been avoided. Unfinished thoughts, unresolved emotions, questions without easy answers. This is why many people reach for noise the moment silence appears. They turn on music, they check their phone, they fill the gap immediately. Not because they need information, but because they want relief. Quiet discipline understands this reaction. It does not judge it. It simply observes it. The discomfort of silence is not a problem to fix. It is a signal that your attention has been outsourced for too long. When silence feels uncomfortable, it means your mind has forgotten how to stay with itself. Quiet discipline gently reverses this, not by forcing silence for hours, but by allowing small moments of it. A few minutes without input, a short walk without headphones, a task done without background noise. At first, the discomfort increases. The mind looks for escape. Thoughts feel louder. Time seems slower. But if you stay, something changes. The discomfort softens. The noise fades. The mind begins to settle. Silence stops feeling empty and starts feeling spacious. This is where clarity appears. Not as a sudden insight, but as a quiet sense of direction. You begin to notice what matters and what doesn't. You stop reacting automatically. You start responding intentionally. Most people avoid silence because they think it will cost them comfort. In reality, it gives them back control. Quiet discipline does not demand silence. It invites it. Because silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of unnecessary input. When you allow silence, your attention returns. And when attention returns, focus no longer feels forced. It feels natural. Reclaiming your attention is not a single decision. It is a daily practice. Most people look for a dramatic solution, a system, a tool, a sudden change that fixes everything at once. Quiet discipline works differently. It asks you to make small, repeatable choices that protect your attention before it gets pulled away. Not once, not occasionally, but every day. Attention is not something you win. It is something you maintain. You don't need perfect focus. You need consistency. Choosing one task instead of 3. Allowing silence instead of filling every gap. Letting messages wait so your thinking can finish forming. These choices look insignificant. No one applauds them. No one sees them. That is why they work. Quiet discipline grows in places where there is no audience. Over time, these small decisions compound. Your mind stops racing. Your thoughts become clearer. Your energy lasts longer. Not because life becomes easier, but because you are no longer fighting yourself. This is what most people misunderstand. Focus is not about effort. It is about alignment. When your attention is protected, work stops feeling heavy. Decisions feel simpler. Time feels more spacious. You begin to trust your own pace. Quiet discipline does not rush you. It does not demand constant output. It teaches you to move steadily, without leaking attention along the way. This is why it lasts. Motivation fades. Willpower fluctuates. But habits built around attention remain. Every day, you will face the same choice. React immediately or stay present a little longer. Consume more or allow space. Scatter your attention or gather it quietly. You don't need to choose perfectly. You just need to choose consistently. Because when attention is reclaimed, discipline stops feeling like control. It becomes clarity. And clarity, when practiced daily, changes everything without making any noise.